When a woman realizes you've lost interest, her world shifts. Confusion sets in, her ego feels the sting. She tests, she chases, she compares, yet nothing works. That's when respect awakens. Her final reaction reveals everything. Either pride makes her walk away, or effort proves she finally values your worth. The shift in energy is one of the most powerful signals a woman can ever feel, and it doesn't even need to be spoken out loud. Women are deeply intuitive, and they pick up on subtleties that many men don't even notice themselves. When you were once fully invested, when your focus was directed towards her, when she could feel your attention, your presence, and your availability, she felt secure in her position. She felt validated by the way you showed up, by the way you gave her energy. But the moment that energy changes, the moment you stop giving her that same level of access, she feels it instantly. It's not something she can ignore, because energy never lies. At first, she might not even be able to put it into words. She will notice the small things, the delayed responses, the shorter conversations, the lack of enthusiasm in your tone, the absence of effort. She may not say anything right away, but in her mind, she's already questioning why the dynamic has shifted. That's how sensitive women are to emotional and energetic changes. The same attention she once took for granted now feels missing, and that gap unsettles her. What makes this shift so impactful is that it doesn't require arguments or confrontations. It's not about you telling her you're done. It's about her feeling that you've redirected your energy somewhere else, maybe towards yourself, your purpose, or your growth. And because energy is what truly binds people together, she senses that she no longer has the same grip over you. This realization strikes her at the core, not because she necessarily loves you deeply, but because she was accustomed to being the center of your world. That loss of priority stings her ego before it ever touches her heart. The beauty of this shift is that it puts the power back in your hands. When you were overly invested, when your energy was chasing, she held the control. But now when you've pulled that back, the entire balance changes. Suddenly, she's not as certain as she once was. Suddenly, she feels the need to evaluate her own actions, her own value, and her place in your life. She wonders what you're thinking, what you're doing, who you're giving your energy to instead. And this uncertainty eats away at her because women crave reassurance that they still hold influence over the men they once captured. That's why the shift in energy is so powerful. It forces her to see a different version of you. Not the one who chased, not the one who overgave, not the one who made her feel like she was irreplaceable. Now she sees the man who can walk away, who can withhold, who can control his emotions instead of pouring them endlessly into her. And that man, the one who withdraws his energy, suddenly becomes far more attractive. Because deep down, she realizes that losing your energy means losing the validation, the attention, and the certainty she once thrived on. The confusion stage is where her mind starts racing and it becomes a battle within herself. When she first feels that shift in your energy, she doesn't immediately accept it. Instead, she begins questioning what went wrong, what changed, and why you no longer seem as invested as before. This stage is filled with uncertainty, and it's not about love at this point. It's about control and validation. She had become used to a certain pattern, a certain way you treated her, and when that pattern breaks, it throws her off balance. In the beginning, she may tell herself it's nothing. She might assume you're just busy or distracted, but the longer it continues, the more her mind spirals. Women are masters at overthinking, and when she feels your attention slipping, she starts analyzing every interaction. Did she say something wrong? Did she push too far? Was she not appreciative enough when you gave her your time and energy? That constant questioning leads her deeper into confusion because she can't quite figure out why you don't seem to value her the way you once did. What makes this stage so interesting is that she rarely admits this confusion openly. On the outside, she may act unbothered. She may even try to convince herself she doesn't care, but internally, she's wrestling with the fact that something has shifted and she doesn't know how to fix it. That loss of certainty is unsettling because women thrive on emotional security, and when they feel they are losing it, panic begins to set in. The same man who once made her feel in control now feels like he's slipping away, and that drives her to wonder what caused the change. This confusion can often lead her to test you. She might pull back to see if you chase. She might act cold or distant, hoping you will fight harder to win her back. She might even try to provoke you emotionally just to see if you still care. These are not signs of strength, but rather signs of desperation masked under pride. She doesn't want to admit that she notices your disinterest, but her actions begin to reveal that she's confused and unsettled by it. The most powerful part about this stage is that it flips the dynamic completely. Before, you were the one questioning where you stood with her. You were the one giving more, wondering if you were enough. Now she's the one living with uncertainty. She's the one analyzing conversations, replaying moments in her head, and overthinking her own actions. And this confusion is uncomfortable because it reminds her that she no longer has the same hold over you. In reality, this stage is where she starts to lose her sense of control. She wants answers but doesn't know how to get them without exposing that she cares. She wants your validation back, but doesn't want to admit she misses it. And so she lives in that confusion, torn between pretending she's fine and secretly obsessing over why your energy no longer belongs to her. The ego trigger is where everything becomes personal for her. Up until now, she might have been questioning, overthinking, and trying to make sense of why your attention shifted. But once it finally sinks in that you're no longer as invested, it's not just about confusion anymore. It becomes an attack on her ego. This is the stage where her pride takes the biggest hit, because a woman's ego is deeply tied to how much validation and attention she can draw from the people around her, especially from someone who once made her the center of his focus. When you were fully invested, when you gave her your time, energy, and emotions, she felt a sense of superiority. It wasn't just about you liking her. It was about her feeling chosen, important, and in control. That constant validation fed her ego and reinforced the idea that she could always keep your interest no matter what. But when you step back, when you stop giving her that power, it shakes her belief in herself. She doesn't just think you've lost interest. She starts to feel like she has lost her influence over you, and that is something her ego struggles to accept. This is when you'll notice her trying harder, but not necessarily in a direct way. She may become more reactive, more passive-aggressive, or even more distant, hoping you'll chase. Sometimes she'll flaunt her independence or act like she doesn't need you at all. But the truth is, all of this is her ego fighting back. She wants to prove to herself that she still has the ability to pull you in. She might dress differently, post things online to get your attention, or drop subtle hints to see if you notice. It's no longer about genuine connection. It's about winning a silent battle with her pride. The ego trigger can also make her competitive, not necessarily with you, but with other women. She begins to wonder if you're giving your energy to someone else, and the thought of being replaced becomes unbearable. Even if she didn't value you the way she should have before, the idea of you valuing someone else over her sparks jealousy and insecurity. It's not always love. It's the ego being unable to accept that she is no longer the priority. What makes this stage powerful is that it exposes her true motives. If it was only about feelings, she might accept your distance and move on. But because her ego is tied to your attention, she struggles with the reality that she can no longer command your energy the way she once did. This is why she reacts, whether through anger, manipulation, silence, or sudden efforts to win you back. It's her pride trying to reclaim lost territory. And here's the irony. The less interest you show, the more her ego burns. The more she realizes you are not chasing, the more desperate her pride becomes to prove that she still has influence. This is why the ego trigger is so significant. It reveals that losing your interest isn't just about emotions for her. It's about her identity, her confidence, and the way she measures her own power. The test of power always comes after the ego has been triggered, because once she feels that sting, she doesn't just sit quietly and accept it. A woman will almost always test to see if she still has control, if she still has the ability to influence you, and if your withdrawal is real or temporary. This is where her actions become calculated. She may not openly admit that she notices your disinterest, but everything she does from this point forward is designed to measure whether or not you're truly done giving her your energy. The test might come in many forms. Sometimes she'll go silent, waiting to see if you break and chase her. Sometimes she'll ignore your presence or act like you don't matter, but deep down she's hoping your pride cracks before hers does. Other times she might suddenly reappear in your space, texting you out of the blue, showing up with questions, or pretending she wants to reconnect. Each of these moves is not random. They're designed to check if she still has a grip on your emotions. What makes this stage fascinating is that it reveals how much she relies on your response to validate her worth. If you break and give in, if you start chasing again, it immediately restores her sense of power. In her mind, she wins the game. She proves to herself that your disinterest wasn't genuine, that you were just temporarily pulling back, and that she still has the ability to pull you in whenever she wants. That's all she needs to feel secure again. Not love, not commitment, just proof that her influence remains intact. But if you don't react, if you stay grounded in your new energy and refuse to give her the chase she's looking for, that's when the real shift happens. She realizes her usual tactics aren't working. The silence doesn't break you, the provocations don't shake you, and her attempts to re-engage don't move you like they used to. This is when the test of power flips back on her, because the more she tests without results, the more she begins to lose confidence in her own ability to control the situation. Women test because they want to know where they stand. They test because they want reassurance without having to ask for it directly. And most importantly, they test because the loss of control threatens their ego. But every test you pass by staying calm, composed, and detached strengthens your position. It forces her to see that you're not the man she can easily manipulate anymore. You're not the man who bends the moment she pulls away. You're not the man who reacts emotionally to her games. The test of power is a turning point because it reveals the truth, whether she truly values you enough to step forward with genuine effort, or whether she only wanted the comfort of knowing she could still control you. Passing this stage requires patience, discipline, and self-respect. If you hold your ground, she will be forced to face the reality that her influence has faded, and that truth is far more powerful than any words you could ever say. The emotional chase begins when her confusion turns into restlessness and her ego refuses to accept defeat. At this point, she has already felt the sting of your withdrawal and has tried to test your reactions. But when those tests don't bring back the same response she was hoping for, she shifts into another mode. Now, she starts chasing you emotionally. This doesn't always look like her physically running after you. It's more subtle, more psychological. She begins to crave the emotional validation she once received from you, and she'll do whatever she can to pull that attention back. At first, this chase may come through little signs. She might message you out of nowhere, pretending to check in, or she may suddenly bring up old memories to stir up your emotions, never admitted before. She may suddenly want to talk things through or open up about feelings she once kept hidden. The reason behind all of this is simple. She is trying to create an emotional response from you because that response reassures her that she still holds value in your life. For a man who has learned self-control, this stage is revealing. You begin to see how much of her behavior is rooted in needing reassurance rather than genuine connection. The emotional chase isn't about love. It's about restoring certainty, and the more you hold your ground, the more she realizes that her old ways of pulling you back are no longer effective. That's when the balance shifts completely. She either has to step forward with real effort and genuine respect, or she has to accept that she no longer has the same influence she once had. The silent competition begins when she starts to realize that your energy is no longer revolving around her, and instead of openly admitting how much that bothers her, she channels it inward and compares herself to other women. This stage doesn't always come with words or confrontation. It's a quiet internal battle where she questions her own position in your life. Women are naturally competitive when it comes to attention, and when they sense that your focus has shifted, their mind immediately begins to wonder who has replaced them. She may not see you with anyone else, she may not even have proof, but the imagination alone is enough to spark this silent competition. She begins to ask herself, who has his attention now? Is there someone prettier, someone more interesting, someone who gives him what I didn't? These questions run through her mind because she can't accept the idea that she's no longer the priority. The thought of you being detached doesn't just sting, it makes her feel like she's been outshined by another woman, even if that woman doesn't exist. The respect awakening is the stage where everything begins to shift inside her, because this is when she finally starts to see you differently. At first, your withdrawal confused her, then it bruised her ego. She tested you, she chased emotionally, she compared herself to others. All of it was her way of trying to regain control. But when none of that works, when she sees that you're no longer the man who reacts, who chases, who loses himself for her approval, she is forced to look at you through a new lens, and that lens is respect. Respect isn't built when you give someone everything they want. Respect is built when you show boundaries, when you demonstrate discipline, when you stand firm in your value no matter what. And for a woman, this is often the moment of realization. She sees that she doesn't control you the way she thought she did. She sees that your attention is not guaranteed, that your presence is not free, and that your emotions are not something she can manipulate at will. This shift awakens something deeper in her, something that goes beyond attraction. She starts to recognize the strength in your restraint. She may not admit this out loud, but internally, she feels it. The very same behavior that once frustrated her, your silence, your detachment, your refusal to be pulled into her games, becomes the reason she starts respecting you. It shows her that you're not like everyone else, that you're not desperate for her validation, and that you know your worth well enough to walk away if you're not valued properly. That is rare, and it demands respect. This awakening doesn't always come with praise or kindness. Sometimes it looks like her quieting down, lowering the games, and beginning to treat you with more seriousness. Other times it shows through subtle shifts in her tone, less arrogance, more humility. The respect awakening isn't about her suddenly falling at your feet. It's about her recalibrating the way she sees you. The man she once thought she could toy with is now the man she realizes she has to work for if she wants to keep his presence. The irony is, many men chase respect by overgiving, but true respect is born in scarcity. It's born when you stop giving unlimited access, when you pull your energy back, when you show that you don't need her to validate you. That's when she realizes you operate from strength, not weakness. And even if she doesn't run back into your arms, she will never look at you the same again. The respect is there, even if her pride keeps her from speaking it. This stage is crucial because it separates you from the crowd. Most men fold when tested. Most men return to old habits when faced with her silence. But the one who stays consistent, who holds the line, who values himself above all, he earns the one thing more powerful than attraction or attention: her respect. The final reaction is the ultimate moment of truth, the point where she can no longer ignore the reality that your interest has faded and nothing she's done has managed to pull it back. By this stage, she's gone through confusion, ego battles, tests, emotional games, and even silent competition. But now she's standing at a crossroad. This is where her true nature and intentions reveal themselves because she can no longer hide behind games. She either accepts the shift and walks away quietly, or she decides to fight harder for your presence in her life. When a woman reaches this point, one of two things usually happens. For some, pride wins. Her ego cannot handle the rejection, and instead of trying further, she chooses to detach completely. She'll act as though she never cared. She'll convince herself you were never that important, and she'll walk away to preserve her dignity. But even in that withdrawal, she's haunted by the fact that she lost control. The memory of not being able to get you back lingers, and that bruise to her pride stays with her far longer than she'll ever admit. For others, the reaction goes in the opposite direction. Instead of walking away, she decides to step forward with more effort than before. She begins showing vulnerability, opening up in ways she never did when she felt secure in your attention. You might notice her being more respectful, more caring, or even expressing feelings she once withheld. This isn't always manipulation. It can sometimes be genuine because losing your energy forced her to see your worth differently. She realizes that she underestimated you, that she took your presence for granted, and now she's faced with the reality that she could lose you for good. The final reaction is so powerful because it strips away the games and exposes her truth. If she was only in it for the validation, she'll retreat when she sees she can't win. If she truly values you, she'll swallow her pride and make the effort to rebuild what she lost. Either way, the mask falls off. You no longer have to guess where you stand because her actions at this stage speak louder than any words. For a man, this is where self-respect matters most. It's tempting to give in the moment she finally shows emotion, the moment she begins to chase or apologize. But the final reaction isn't about her. It's about you recognizing your own growth. It's about knowing that you no longer base your value on her attention, but on the standards you set for yourself. Whether she steps up or walks away, you've already won because you've proven to yourself that you can control your emotions, maintain your boundaries, and command respect without begging for it. The final reaction closes the cycle. It's the stage where she realizes she doesn't define your worth. You do. And once that realization hits, she will never forget the man who showed her what strength, restraint, and true self-respect look like. In the end, when your interest fades, it forces her to face the truth she tried to ignore. Every stage she goes through, confusion, ego battles, tests, and competition, ultimately leads to one lesson. Real power lies in self-respect. When you stop chasing, you gain respect. and that changes everything. This stage often fuels her actions in subtle but noticeable ways. She might suddenly become more conscious of her appearance, trying to present herself in ways she believes will recapture your interest. She could also start showing off on social media, posting pictures or updates that highlight her beauty, her life,